There are things that we can do in editing to fool the brain into believing that it's the same sound, but with a much more powerful result. So I've got a couple of sounds here. We've got a nice howitzer, which we'll place here, maybe about here. Let's see here. Nice stereo files. Let's make sure we have stereo tracks. There they all are, nice stereo tracks. We've got a cannon. We've got another kind of cannon. And we've got our 9mm Glock. Okay, cool. I'm going to get rid of this track here by hitting Command Delete. And, oops. Howitzer, cannon. Lost my 9mm. There we go. Command Delete. Now here, let's take a listen. So here's cannon howitzer number 1. Fantastic. This one. Fantastic. Obviously has nothing to do with a handgun, but lovely sounds. Watch this. Love it. Now here's the 9mm in mono. That's what we would expect sort of a 9mm Glock to sound like. Now the first thing we're going to do once we stick these in here is, since these are very, very transient sounds, we're going to add a hard limiter to our master output. Just use the built-in Audition 1. And we go over hard limiters and why we use them, but extensively in the fix and in the mix section. But for now, just it'll suffice to say that we just don't want to have our master go over, because these are very, very transient sounds. And also because they're very transient, we're going to bring all of these faders down 6 decibels, just to give us the fighting chance of making sure we don't, in fact, go over 0. Cool. I'm also going to give us a little headroom, a little space, so we have some runway. But then I am going to edit. Well, let's just line these up for a second. Line up, line up, line up. Now, just because I have the objects lined up, the clips, as you can see, the audio has no bearing on where the front, where the actual clip is. So this is pretty well there. And we can get really, really anal about it if we want. Probably don't need to in this case. We're talking about microseconds in such a case there. We'll bring this back to there, and notice the snapping blue line comes up. We'll do the same with this one. Here we go there. And this one as well. Cool. Now all together, these make a pretty cool sound just by themselves. Right, that's super cool. Check it out, just the 9mm. And we could probably bring this one up a little bit more. It's really low. Using the clip volume. That's what this is here, just that clip volume, a little bit louder. Not the fader volume, just clip volume. There we go. And how about this one? I might bring this one up too. There we go. Now, this sounds great, but it doesn't really have any bearing on what a 9mm sounds like. And the 9mm by itself sort of sounds chintzy now in comparison. And it's in mono. So what we can do to fool people, fool the brains, since everyone's brains are aligned to them already, is use the howitzer cannons as the attack, and from there, let the sound of their attack fall off, and let the 9mm then take over in the release of the sound. So we're going to click A. We're going to go like this. We're going to cut everybody. And I've got that set up as Command K. Then what we're going to do to help smooth over relations is a little crossfade like this. Now this is incredibly short. In fact, how short is it? It's basically just over to the size of a frame. So probably about 50 milliseconds or so. And then we'll extend the Glock just ahead of its fade out so that the Glock is fully in before the end of this fade out. Let's see what happens. Right? It's got this awesome cannon attack. And whereas if we just remember what it was like before, soloing the 9mm, and we'll undo. Then with the cannons. But that's not all. We could go like this if we wanted and extend the release of them even longer if we wanted. Really get some body into it. Even longer if we wanted, and actually give full value to some of this duration that they've got. Letting the crossfade kind of start later. Now it's going to start getting a little cannon-y. Oops. Because now we're going past the big attack of the 9mm. Right. Now it's not sounding like a 9mm anymore, that attack. It sounds funny. So I like it back here. Now because this 9mm is mono and sounds, well, mono-y, what we can do is I click on the track and we can add a little reverb. And actually what we should do is create a new track. And I'm going to discuss all this, actually a stereo bus track. And we're going to discuss all this in the fix, especially in the mix section. I'm going to just look at it over here. This is bus A. This is our 9mm. We're going to go to send one, which is this thing right here. We're going to say, please go to bus A. Now, if I say bus A, and now this little volume here determines how much volume goes to bus A. We're going to make it full volume. We're just going to call it 0. There it is showing up here. And you're like, well, why do we care? Well, now we're going to, it's stereo, is it not? And now we're going to add reverb. Nice convolution reverb. Why don't we do under the bridge? Right, there's the reverb coming in. We're going to take the pre-delay, which is at 71.2 milliseconds off. Not much better. And make the width is really wide. Let's try, instead of gallery, let's try massive cavern. Yeah. That's nicer. Now, because we had the forethought of putting this on a bus, I can also send some of these cannons over there. It's not just on the one track. I can send it over. So let's do S1, bus A. We're going to send some of this cannon into it. Bus A, some of this cannon into it. Bus A, some of this cannon. And bus A, a lot of this cannon. And then notice we are still not going over 0 because of the hard limiter. Watch what happens if I turn the hard limiter off. Oops, way, way over. So you can't really notice the difference. It's giving it a nice little haircut. And now you've got a cool sounding 9mm, which is really ingenious and really nice, with a gigantic crushing attack from some cannons.